I don't know how old I was, but I remember sitting on my parents' bed at the edge of it, and I was looking up at an old, what then was new television that was a big box, and it was up on top of an armoire. I was in the room by myself, and I remember seeing a gentleman who was incredibly flamboyant and didn't look like anybody I had ever met. I later learned that that was Harvey Milk. But there was another woman who spoke, and she looked like all the ladies that I saw on Sundays when I went to church. And she said that that flamboyant man was going to go to hell.
Members, please take your conversations outside the rails.
She said that she was there to save children. And I took it that she was talking to me. She said that women who liked other women would go to hell, that they were a danger to society, and I knew I was one of them. And that there was something wrong with me, that I was not okay. I later remember riding in the car with my mom down Broadway. I grew up by Hobby Airport. It was old enough that I didn't have a seatbelt on. And I absolutely loved my mother. Still love her. And we were about halfway down the road, and I probably had about 10 minutes before we got home. And I thought, I need to talk to my mama about the lady I saw on TV. And I thought, as a young child, that if I said anything, I would not be loved. That was the moment I went in the closet. And I have talked to many of you on the other side of the aisle. And I will say this, I've been here for a short period of time, but I genuinely do love many of you, and I know that you love me back. And I know that we disagree on policy. But you have said kids don't know. And I'm telling you, I knew. Kids know. It took It took 30 years and a cancer diagnosis and believing that I was about to lose the life I had and realizing I had never really known love, even of myself. The closet includes a lot of dark corners. And so I am the one this morning in a committee that asked the mother of David, who had committed suicide, if she would ever want us as a body to do anything that would cause a child to harm themselves. I am the one that asked. And if I offended anybody on that committee or anybody watching, I apologize. And I think that you will sense potentially throughout this day that my colleagues that have suffered the same closet, the same feeling of harm and hate, and that we do not belong in this world, much less our own body, that we will probably be incredibly raw and rough today. We say that to say, I promise you, having this conversation, much less this legislation, will cause harm to our transgender children. I grew up in the 70s. And when I run into folks, even those that are wearing pink, that say, I am here to protect girls' sports, and they say, you don't remember me. And I say, yes, I do. You're so-and-so's daughter. We grew up at the same time. And I say, when I was growing up, I was a lesbian. And I never told anybody because it wasn't okay. And they say, well, that was wrong back then. I'm asking you to consider that what we're doing right now is wrong today. And you can stop it. If you vote for this amendment, we can all stop it right now. And so I'm asking you, on behalf of the little Anns who are watching, you are loved. You are like the sunrise and sunset. You are brilliant and different from day and night, as one of our ministers said, and we just don't understand or know you yet. But you are loved. And I ask that you vote for this amendment on behalf of all of them.
Mr. Speaker,
Mrs. Weiner, for what purpose?
will the gentlelady yield for some questions?
Would the gentlelady yield for questions?
Yes.
She yields for questions.
Yeah. Representative Johnson, I'm going to phrase this as a question, but do you know that I and every single one of my colleagues standing behind you today love you and appreciate you sharing your story?
I do, and I will tell you, I wish I had said something to my mother in that car. I know now what those kids and parents should be proud of today, that I let conversations like this keep me from talking to my parents. My parents didn't have the chance to help me because I heard from somebody else on the TV. I will tell you that when I did finally come out to my parents, my mom was very emotional. My dad happened to walk in the door at the same time, and he had a pack of stuff in his hands. And I said, Dad, I'm gay. And he put the stuff down. He walked over, gave me a big hug, said, I love you. Took 3 steps back, picked up the pack, and said, now can we talk about the phone bill? I think about what my life might have been like if I had not been closeted.
And you mentioned, growing up in the 70s. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s and got a sister 4 years younger than me. And when I was in high school, there weren't a lot of kids out in school. Mm-hmm. 5 years later, when she was in high school, there were kids who were out in high school. And I think sometimes we all forget how quickly so many things in the world have changed. You mentioned that woman you knew as a child said that was wrong then. What do you think we should do with this moment where we as a body have a chance to be on the right side of the history, to do the thing that is right, to protect these kids that maybe not all of us understand, but that we all know we should love? What should we be doing with this moment?
I have often thought that if we could shut the doors, if we could shed the labels, that we could accomplish amazing things. And I know many of you in your heart, you know me, you know my wife. I know your heart. And I would ask that you vote on your heart and not the political risk that might come with making a very courageous decision.
Yeah. Well, thank you for how you've asked members for courage. Thank you for speaking for this great amendment from Representative Gonzalez, and I certainly hope the body stands with you on this today.
Gentlelady's time has expired.